All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Rocket Lab Weekly. In this episode, we're going to cover 2 weeks because we left out the Thanksgiving one. Unfortunately, my wife said that it was date night, and I kind of had to skip Rocket Lab Weekly. So it is what it is, and but I think it was okay. Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving, and hopefully everybody got to spend it with the family. So today we have the full crew, and probably we have a surprise guest coming who has recently been in New Zealand, and she's going to tell us about. She visited Rocket Lab and got her book signed by Sir Peter Beck, and should have some interesting things to say. Cool. So how's everyone this week?
Cold. It's snowing where I am in Canada. It's definitely no longer summer here. I don't know about you, Dave, but it's getting pretty chilly over here.
Yeah, it's especially today. The past couple of days have been pretty cold, and we've been getting some snow here as well. But probably nowhere near as bad as you, I'm sure. And looks like we have someone else joining here.
Yeah, Miss Iglesias, so nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for having me on. A little bit under the weather, but I think I'll manage. But thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
You have a good setup. I love it.
Oh, it's my son's room.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, for me, the week was rather good. Happy to see that Rocket Lab wasn't going to zero. I think a lot of people were starting to get skeptical about, oh my God, why am I even invested in this? But it does. I feel like these sorts of price movements are good to let people kind of know, like, what are they tolerant of in terms of where their portfolios are, right? Not just for Rocket Lab, but for everything. But overall, went from being about 20% down to 11% down, so it feels a little bit better for me from a portfolio perspective. But continue to add on Monday. I think it was Monday on the 1st, I added another tranche of money into Rocket Lab and a bunch of other different companies that I normally buy every time I get a paycheck. So always a good week.
Yeah. I did end up buying some Rocket Lab call options early in the week. I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday. I think it was. But yeah, they had a big up day and that doubled. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do I keep getting so lucky on these? But yeah, so that
dude,
was nice.
You're like the wizard of Rocket Lab.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, I guess.
Yeah.
And then T-minus 10 days till the baby is due to come, so it's getting closer. Kind of curious, for you guys, did it come like exactly on the due date or early or?
For me, the first baby came week 36, and then the next one came week 38, and then 39, and then the last one came exactly on the due date.
And our first one cooked a little longer, and then our second one had to be delivered a little early, but it was only like a 2 weeks early or so. So yeah, ballpark.
I guess could be any time now then.
Yeah, it could be any day.
Mine came, I think, at 38 weeks.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So when you said T-minus 10 days, it's very much like a rocket launch. Things can happen, and
well, the rocket launches rarely go off early. You know, it's not like, oh shit, someone pressed the red button. There it goes.
That's true. That's true. I meant like rarely on time. You know, like you can't think with the Cool. So to start off Rocket Lab Weekly, Miss Iglesias, you have done a trip to New Zealand, which I believe was your birthday trip. Happy birthday, by the way.
Yes, right? Thank you. And thank you for all the birthday wishes in the comments. And I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. And it seemed like you did an amazing tour of the Rocket Lab facilities. You met some amazing Rocket Lab people. You got your book signed by Sir Peter Beck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what inside information can you tell us about the company?
It was a great trip. As you mentioned, it was my 50th birthday. So I love traveling solo. Just because we have a big family, when you travel solo, it obviously makes a huge difference. I don't know. But my wife had said, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "Well, you know, when we all went to Launch Complex 3, Sir Peter Beck had said that we could visit New Zealand." I said, "You know, I've always wanted to go to New Zealand." I said, "So let me see if I can get this on the books." And we were able to get it lined up. Oh, there's my post. And it was amazing. I flew into New Zealand the same day that the tour was supposed to happen, and I don't know if you guys know or not, but in New Zealand, you drive on the left side of the road, and the steering column is on the right side of the car. But I thought, yeah, I could do this, so I rented a car, and I was on my way to the appointment, and I hit a curb on the left, and I shredded the passenger side tire. So I instantly pulled over, and I was determined to get there, you know, on time. I'm like, nothing's going to stop me. So I went to go change the tire, but the rental didn't have a spare tire. So I did what any other reasonable investor would do, and I abandoned the vehicle with all of my stuff in it, and I called an Uber, and I made sure that I got there in time. But it was absolutely amazing. You know, Muriel and Morgan were both very gracious in meeting me there. And, you know, the aesthetics of this place is very similar to the aesthetics to the Long Beach location. It's very much Star Wars, like down to the detail. If you've had a chance to go to Disneyland and ride the Rise of the Resistance ride for Star Wars, it's like that. It's absolutely gorgeous. You know, we got to walk in and see the booth where they do all of their streams for the launches. It's like a little sound booth with a window, and then the technicians behind it. That was super cool. They have lots of memorabilia on hand. They had model rockets of the Atea 1. They had a shadow box that had a lot of pieces of the original, the first Electron. They had a replica of the Humanity Star. For those that aren't familiar, you know, if you may remember, the Humanity Star was that first thing that Sir Peter Beck put up in space. It was super sparkly, and I think it pissed off a lot of people because it was
controversial, that one.
Right. But shortly thereafter, as he mentions in the book, you know, Elon ended up putting a whole roadster up there, but that was okay, right? So they had a replica of that. They had the original blender there, the one where he blended his baseball cap for that, you know, now famous video.
Love it.
You know, they had all kinds of stuff, and I was determined to show up there and be like, you know, a distinguished investor and have my questions lined up. But I was like a kid in a candy store. It was absolutely amazing, and just to see how busy the place was, I was not expecting that. When I went to the Long Beach location, they were in the process of transitioning or separating Space Systems from Archimedes because they had just purchased the Virgin Orbit facility. So they were moving all that stuff out. So when I visited that place, it was pretty slow. You know, there were still a lot of people taking meetings and having conversations, but it wasn't really like a hotbed of activity. But this place in New Zealand, it's kind of like the stock market without all the yelling and without the throwing of paper, right? There was a lot of people, and everyone was either at a computer working on something, or at a station putting something together, or integrating Rutherford engines, or putting together fairings, you name it. Whatever you thought you would be able to see there, that's what was going on. I remember seeing a room where they were putting together all of the reaction wheels that were getting ready to ship out. And it was just like the pictures. It was like the reaction wheels in these big like shoe boxes on these pallets, you know, like something out of Costco. But everything was just beautiful. Like whatever they show us in the pictures that they post, I always kind of wondered. I'm like, do those guys really wear those little white hoodies with the beard things, and do these boxes really look like? Is there a guy really inside of the Electron? There's a guy inside the Electron. There's a guy with the white hoodie. There's the pallet full of reaction wheels. It really does exist. It's there, and it's everything the way that they do show it to you. And you know, it's. I think Peter said this a couple times, where you know what you see is what you get, and that's absolutely true.
Just a quick question. So when you saw the star trackers the reaction wheels, and you saw them about to be shipped, what was on the label? I saw this question on the
There was no label, but I thought I would be slick and say, "Oh, are they getting ready to be shipped for a Kuiper?" And the person said, "I cannot disclose that." So, I did try, but I think Scotto has this pretty nailed down in terms of who the secret sauce customer is. So, but I
was
did
kind
try.
of surprised that they're there because that was an acquisition, right? So I didn't think they would be getting made in New Zealand.
No, I knew that because they said they were going to stand up a production line in New Zealand just for this secret customer. Like they had ordered so much that a production line was going to be stood up in New Zealand for that purpose. So
okay,
yeah, I was just surprised that everything looked exactly the way that you see it in the pictures. And I think
That's awesome.
The most exciting part. I'm sorry. I think am I taking up too much of your show now?
No, this is awesome.
No, just
Go on,
good.
please.
This is awesome. Yeah.
The most exciting part, and I think I can share it now. I can't post pictures. I was told not to post pictures about it yet, but I think I could probably talk about it. It'll be a show exclusive. When we were walking around the floor, they asked one of the engineers if I could put fingerprints on the rocket so I can take a picture. He said, yeah, come on in. So I went over there to touch electron or one of the electrons. And the engineer brought over a Sharpie. And he said, do you want to sign it? I'm like, what do you mean, do you want to sign it? It's like, do you want to go inside this first stage and write your name in it? I'm like, yes. So that was like absolutely incredible.
wow.
Yeah, I haven't posted about it because I was asked not to post pictures about it because I guess the launch hasn't happened for that particular electron. But I think I can talk about it. I hope so. I'm sorry.
Your name's going to space.
Do you know which one is it?
I don't know. I was going to reach out and ask to see if they could tell me, but
I was actually going to ask that. Like, you're getting me emotional. This is so cool. I feel like I'm meeting Sir Peter Beck again. But it's like, are each of the electrons, are they just like kind of mass producing, or is each of them kind of specific for a set mission? I guess because like I know the fairing piece changes, but I'm curious if like each electron itself, is it just kind of like the standard basis of design, and it's really just the fairing that changes, or like when you go through, is it like, okay, this is number 78, this is number 79, this is 80? Like I'm kind of curious if like they go to that kind of level of detail, or is it kind of like we're just producing as much as we can, as quality as we can?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The factory was full. It was full of them. Excuse me. I know that different people were working on different ones, so I get the impression that they're probably customized to whatever the mission is going to be. I saw them integrating Rutherfords into different ones. I saw them, like I said, putting together the fairings, working on the buses. This one in particular, I didn't have any identifying markers that I could tell this is for that mission. I think at the very end, they slapped a sticker on the fairing so you can see what it's for. But it was very interesting. One of the other things that I did ask that I thought it was a fun fact, I don't think that we've ever heard this before. I noticed that some of the electrons had a slightly different color. Like some of them were kind of like a green to tan hue. And I was told that carbon fiber, as it ages, the glue that's used to bind the carbon fiber changes color a little bit. So as it ages more and more, the electron starts to change color. So when we see them on the launch, if it's one that's looking a little bit more green or a little bit more brown, it means that's probably an older one that's been sitting out on the factory floor. And I thought, oh, great. Give me one more thing to worry about when I'm watching these launches, right? I'm like, oh my God, that's an old one. But I guess it really doesn't make a difference in terms of the strength, but just in terms of how it looks.
That's a cool fact.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And
did you get time to talk with Peter much, or any of the other?
No, he was actually in a meeting. Like I said,
okay.
Everybody was super, super busy. Morgan was really good about, they signed my book and then they took my book over to him to get it signed. But everybody was super, super busy. And, their work culture is so diverse. I really enjoyed seeing that as well. One guy that stood out to me was this guy that was integrating a Rutherford into the first stage, and he looked like a cowboy. Like when I say a cowboy, like I mean a cowboy, like the tight jeans, the buckle, the Wrangler shirt, and the hat. But his shirt, even though it was a cowboy shirt, had the Rocket Lab logo in the back. And he had the boots and everything. And I'm like, look at this character. But here he was integrating a Rutherford into that first stage. And I thought, yeah, this place is great. They had workstations where the engineers were putting things together, and they had the system where it had like these lights on top of poles, and there was like a red light, a green light, a yellow light. And it was explained to me that whenever they're working on something, if everything's going as planned, it's a green light. If they need help from someone else, they change the light and they escalate it to whatever color it's supposed to be. If they need like, a more senior engineer to come over there and lend some help or provide some input as to on what they're working on. But everything was the way they show it to you on the videos and on the pictures. I'm trying to think of what else I saw aside from getting my book signed. Obviously, I did mention to them that I asked about the Warkworth location where we see Marie J post all those pictures all the time for the Neutron fairings. At the time, I was told that was a prototype. I understand that perhaps there might be some security concerns, and I don't know how much they're allowed to divulge, but that is what I was told. They
so
said
it's not the first or second Neutron. It's just their testing.
That's not what I was told. They said everything Neutron related is being manufactured here in the States, whether it's being integrated over at Wallops or over that big facility at what is that, Middleton River, whatever it's called. And Archimedes, obviously here in Long Beach, California. But they said everything Neutron is being made in the States. What's over there are prototypes. But interestingly enough, we saw Marie J post and a few more people from the Facebook group recently post that it was being shipped, right? That it's moving. So I'm assuming it's moving in this direction, but for what purpose, I'm not sure. But that is what I was told. I know another one of the questions that has come up a couple times in posts is how many launches are we going to get this year? And again, I was told that we're aiming for 20. I know, I think we're now December 6th. I think that seems realistic at this point. I know we hope for more, but that is what
Scotto, just are you okay? Take deep breaths.
I don't know, guys. I have a question. Really cool. Did you happen to see the Electron that has the red ring around it, that recovery one?
No,
I know it's kind of off the table now, but is that still kicking around?
Yeah, no, not at all. I did ask. I said, "Do you have any of the ones with the red recovery ring on it?" And I was told, "No, we're not working on any of those right now. The entire focus is on getting Neutron to the pad and getting that product and that service up and going, and then maybe we will revisit that, but nothing in terms of Electron reusability right now."
That's fair.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Are there any, because when you say that the whole team is focusing on Neutron, so do they have like New Zealand engineers flying into the US and like that are missing from that production site? Or how do they mean if all the Neutron production is solely in the US?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. The factory floor was all Electron. And like I said, I know for a fact that everything Archimedes is being done here in Long Beach. The testing obviously being done over at Stennis. But in terms of the carbon fiber lane and all that other stuff, I was told that was all here in the States. So maybe it's all the avionics, all the software, all the, I don't know.
All right. Somebody is asking, did you see a flatellite?
I did not see a flatellite. I saw a bus. The foundation for Photon. I saw first stage. I saw Rutherford engines. I got to hold a little Curry engine, which is super tiny. It's like this big. Like I really wanted to just kind of put it in my pocket, but for my desk. But I think they would have noticed. But no, I did not see any flatellites, unfortunately.
So cool. I was gonna ask what was it? I'm surprised. Like you talked about, there was no red ring, so no reusable electrons. It's like I would be surprised that. I mean, I understand where they're coming from, like not focusing and hyper focusing on it from from an electron perspective, but even just being able to get the data from, hey, we know that this was launched before. we launch it again, like even if it's an R&D sort of launch, like I'm surprised that they still haven't gone ahead and done more so of that, just to kind of understand, because one of the things that I was talking about with Sean DeMillo, or I think it was actually more Dave's question, was like about the reusability of Neutron, and he kind of went off on like, well, things that you think are going to be reused actually end up coming back better, and things that you didn't think about actually end up being worse. And so even from an R&D perspective, I'm like kind of surprised that we didn't at least get that data for Electron, because I feel like that's still going to be valid for Neutron, you know? So it's almost like a data point that you could use for that, but I don't know.
Yeah, and what I keep hearing is that they did recover a lot of data from those electrons that they recovered from the ocean anyways, and have put that to good use on the development of Neutron. And I think we've heard a couple of times that even on the electrons that they launch now, that there's always some portion of Neutron on there, whether it's the use of their software mimicking what it would be like, or some piece of Neutron in there they're testing against the elements. So I think the Electron has definitely been a test bed for that. In terms of when they're returning to recovery, like full recovery of it, it's hard to say.
Question for Vince: why didn't you like the post, man?
Which post?
This post.
What am I missing now?
Oh,
this okay. One that we're looking at. I don't know.
I'm just joking, man.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Thank you. That's funny. The day after, I think you guys maybe saw my video. I did drive out to Warkworth with the assistance of Murray J, who gave me the coordinates. It's about an hour away from Auckland. I drove there praying all the way as I drove on the other side of the road again, hoping I wouldn't hit something else. But I made it, and I was able to see the fairing. I was able to see that piece. I think it's the second stage that was attached to the fairing. In the parking lot, they had lots of different pieces. They had a whole structure. I remember I got on the phone with Francisco just to kind of get his take at what I was looking at, because I know he's very deeply involved in all of the different moving pieces. And we were talking about how the stock price was at a really, I think it was in the slumps that day, after coming off a 40% haircut over the last 30 days. It was pretty bad. So I said, maybe we should post something. Maybe I should post like a little video so people can see that it's actually happening. It's here. Like, people are working on it, and there's lots of moving pieces here, but it's actually happening. So you can actually see the facility. If you go behind, there's like a parking lot. I think it's like a mechanics shop or something in the back, but it's wide open. And you used to be able to see all of the stuff that was happening in there anyways. So that's why I thought it's pretty safe to post it. From looking at Murray J's post, I can see that they've set up some tents now to probably cover up all the stuff that was going on. Maybe
they didn't want us looking at them anymore.
Yeah, right. And they're like, maybe you're looking at it, maybe too much.
Yeah. Cool. And did you by any chance visit Mahia also, or
no? So
just
Mahia,
quote unquote?
Yeah, Mahia is like I think it was like a 13-hour drive from Auckland.
13 hours. Is it New Zealand like really tiny?
It's not. It's pretty big. It actually reminded me of Hawaii a lot, but much larger. I had a very short timeline. My kids have a lot of competitions on the weekend, so I cut it really short. I was only in New Zealand for like 2.5-3 days, but I had thought maybe I can drive all the way to Mahia, knowing that I probably wouldn't be able to see anything. I even thought about driving down to Sir Peter Beck's hometown, which is on the southern portion of it. Again, really far away. I think I would have had to take, a flight into a neighboring town and then driven into it. But it was going to be really challenging. So that was impossible. But one of the things that I will mention about New Zealand, I've heard Sir Peter Beck talk about this a lot. It's like the number one thing he said in all his videos is when he was a young kid, him and his father were looking into the sky, and his father said, there could be somebody else looking down at you, right? We've all heard that story. But what I never realized that New Zealand has some of the darkest skies in the world. So when you're looking into the sky, you're really looking into space. You know, when I heard that story, I live here in LA, and we have all sorts of light pollution. So
yeah.
to hear somebody say, "Oh, I looked up and it was so inspiring." I look up all the time, and I'm like, I don't know, I can see like a couple of things, but not anything major. But in New Zealand, you can see a lot. I didn't get a chance to visit the Southern Island. From what I understand, it's like one of the dark sky sanctuary places in the world, or whatever it's called. But that's on my bucket list now, is going down there and actually spending some time just looking at the sky and what you can see with your naked eye. So I can see how Sir Peter Beck was so inspired by that New Zealand sky. That makes sense to me now.
That's insane. That's a really good story, because I think I remember taking a trip just a couple like hour west of Houston, and some of the people had never seen a sky that dark, because I've always lived in Houston. And it wasn't even that dark. I've been in Utah, where it's like you're literally in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, it's life-changingly how different of a sky you get to see. So that's a really good story. Appreciate you sharing that.
It is, yeah, no, of course it is. And everyone in New Zealand was so nice. I completely understand now, like the culture and his humble approach to things, I think. But everybody was super nice, and everything was super green. And everywhere you looked, there was like animals just kind of roaming around doing their own thing. I swear to God, we drove by this one patch of pasture, and in this patch, maybe about 40 yards big, I saw wild turkeys, I saw deer, I saw cattle, I saw sheep, and a peacock, all within that same 40 yards. Just wildlife just roaming around, you know, soaking up the green pasture that is everywhere. So it is just absolutely stunning. Very, very beautiful place.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing this story with us. I mean, it's amazing to know that all the pictures are not AI generated fantasies, and there is actually something behind it. Cool.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. You know, it's always great listening to you guys and all of the information you guys continue to gather. And I haven't had a chance to really dive deep into research, so it's always helpful to see your videos, Dave, and all of your videos. I think everybody's very engaged in making sure that the company's moving in the right direction. But, you know, I'll close with this is, you know, I think I've mentioned this before. I've been in since VACQ. And as an investor, I like to make sure that, you know, what I am seeing on the screens is actually what's happening. You know, I've visited different sites and I've talked to different people. And I can tell you that with Rocket Lab, and again, it's not financial advice, obviously, but I have no concerns that they are a good steward of my money. So I'm going to continue to remain an investor and see what's next. Next year's supposed to be very exciting. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks for sharing.
Awesome.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Feel free to stay. You don't have to run. We're not running you off.
Oh, okay. I was gonna like.
Cool. All right. Then I think let's go through the news of the last 2 weeks, and we can maybe start with the launches. So I believe this is launch number 19 that is about to happen on the 9th of December, which is for the Japanese Space Agency JAXA. Scotto told me that he also wanted to say something about the launch manifest. We know now that there's probably 2 more launches, but Scotto doesn't agree with that, I think.
Well, I'll just walk you through a couple updates, because there have been several since the last time we talked. So I asked to share the screen there. All right. So first update is from Eastern Shore Spaceflight. Long story short, there is a window opening on December 18th with backups running through the 23rd. Now, we originally had the DiskSat mission launching out of Virginia December 5th, I think was the date. So this is probably what we're looking at. And I'll let him share the exciting news, but without saying too much, we do know that this is not a haste. So I'll kind of leave it there. So that's probably, you know, one more from US soil launching this year.
I do have something to say about that.
Okay.
While I was there, there was mention about one launch coming out of Wallops that would not be a haste launch, because I was talking about the possibility of attending one of the launches, and I said, you know, I'm probably going to have to wait till Neutron launches because all that we do on our side of the world is the HASTE launches. There was actually talk about allowing me to sit in mission control for the launch that occurred while I was there. But the secret customer, BlackSky, said that they wanted to remain secret, so they couldn't have any external people in the booth, which was fine. I was just flabbergasted that it was even considered. But I was told that there would be one upcoming launch from Wallops that would not be a HASTE launch.
Cool. So that's probably
cool.
ours. I think that's expected to be, there's 4 disk sats on there. And when it was first announced, it was announced as a payload, but then the timeline kind of shifted around a little bit. So I'm not sure if it's just the disk sats going up or if there is an additional payload, but either way, we're expecting something on the 18th.
Is that'll only be the second non-HASTE launch, right? I mean, the first one was Virginia's for launch lovers,
Yep.
and then this, I guess, would be the only second non-HASTE launch, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, okay, there's 2 things that I want to bring up in relation to this, and then we'll kind of circle back because something was mentioned indirectly. So BlackSky, they announced that they delivered their first very high resolution image from their 3rd Gen 3 satellite in less than 24 hours following the launch. So there was a confidential launch on November 20th that went off for Rocket Lab. And then BlackSky mentions that this image was collected at 10:08 a.m. on November 22nd. So that timeline kind of, you know.
I love how they're like, it has to be confidential, and they literally release it. It's like, I was like,
and there's one more part to it too that is just a little bit like what are we doing? But past that, there is a mention. Lucas CH, he reached out during one of the manifest update posts that I made, and he mentioned that during Synspective's most recent earnings, that their 8th Strix satellite is delayed till Q1 of 2026. So we'll hop over to kind of looking at everything here. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but you know, I'm going to do this in a little bit of a different order because I do want to end on a question and kind of pitch it to not just you guys on stage, but to the general audience as well. So if we are kind of looking, we have the number 19 coming up here in 3 days. The disk sat, assuming that's what that is on December 18th. We're still supposed to have the ESA launching out of New Zealand as well. And that might be the end of our year. So 19, 20, 21. Past that, we have 4 that we're not quite sure what exactly is going on. BlackSky is a little bit less clear as of their most recent earnings, like when their next one is going off. If it is still this year, it kind of sounds like next. Similar with Hawkeye, IQPS, and Capella, those are probably pushed into 2026. But all this to say, you know, we're probably hitting north of 20 this year, maybe like 22 optimistically. But I was scrolling ahead earlier today, and we have 22 already lined up for 2026. And I don't know why that one's down there as 2025, but that's probably canceled anyway. Anyway, 22 for 2026, not including the 4 that are probably being pushed out of 2025. Plus, there were between 4 to 7 that were signed in Q3 that are just like, we don't have enough information to know what exactly those were. So all this to say is we're probably ending the year at 21, maybe 22, but 2026 is already looking like it could be as many as 26 to 29 launches already. So realistically, well, cautiously optimistically, we're probably hitting somewhere between 25, maybe north of 30 launches in 2026. So it's going to be an exciting year.
Curious about that because, you know, Rocket Lab looking at their own manifest over the previous years is often coming a little short. So when you see this number, and it's probably like what they were seeing in previous years, do you worry about, okay, customers delaying again and stuff like that, and maybe only hit like 24?
Yeah, that's probably what'll end up happening. Like realistically, even if there's any growth, like even 25 with Neutron on the immediate horizon, like that's still a good 2026. Plenty to be excited about. But I did want to ask you guys a question. So when you look at Rocket Lab's website and their missions that have been launched in the past, there are several that are confidential and some that just aren't listed at all. But I mean, then they do things like this where it's like, I don't know how well you guys can see this, but the mission logo is one rocket being launched with two satellites meeting up during the same exact time frame that BlackSky on the previous earnings call mentioned, that the third satellite is at the site. And if you look at even the shape of it too, like it's the same logo and whatnot. So the question that I want to pitch to you guys and the audience as well is, what do you guys think of in terms of confidentiality? And we'll use this one for example, where it's like BlackSky pretty much explicitly mentioned that this was them. And then there was like another one before where it was like a day or two after where a gentleman on X was like, hey, these satellites just reached orbit and they came out of New Zealand, but Rocket Lab is saying that they're confidential. Like, where do you guys draw that line? Like, should we just be like updating this to be BlackSky? And same thing with like the previous HASTE launches. Like, we pretty much know exactly who these are. Do you think it's better to kind of like go with what Rocket Lab is saying? Or do you think it's kind of like public at this point? What do you guys think? Mr. Iglesias, you're our guest. What do you think? We'll start with you.
With me? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking in the comments and Sponge Rob 72 has mentioned a few times about the controversy surrounding BlackSky. So I did a quick Google AI overview. And I guess there's some controversy about their imaging satellites providing support to Israel. So there's been some protests around that. So, I mean, in terms of it being confidential, it seems like, based on what I'm seeing, like it's more for avoiding maybe protesters coming out to protest the actual launch or, showing up at different places. But in terms of updating the manifest to show what it was, I don't know what their protocol is. I think once they've said it's confidential, it's kind of confidential. But, as you pointed out, you could just see, the mission patches and kind of figure it out.
Yeah. I think for our purposes, Scott.
Is it me or did we lose Dave?
We lost Dave. Oh, he froze.
Dave.
He's frozen.
But
there you go.
Sorry, Dave. Can you
froze
say it
for
one
a
more time?
second.
You froze.
Froze again.
Still frozen?
His lean back position.
Yeah.
He's either freezing or taking a nap.
Relaxing.
I mean, my opinion is that the customer is always right. So it's like if the customer is asking to keeping it confidential and then they give you a logo that practically almost says BlackSky on it, then you do what the customer wants. And I think that in the general public, like you're in the top 0.001% who like follows it so closely. Like I think that the general public is like, oh, it's confidential. Okay, it is confidential. And then they don't look anymore.
Fair.
Dave, how's it going? Dave, are you back?
Maybe not.
I'm not sure what's happening. Yeah, okay, we continue. And whenever Dave gets debugged, he just jumps in. Did we take everyone on this question?
I don't really have much else to add. I mean, I think confidential, not confidential. I think it really just depends on, what they want to do and why. They'll have their purposes, and the problem is, it's like, just because one thing says confidential might not be the same reason why something else might be. And, I've see people in the chat basically saying, well, maybe it's not for BlackSky. BlackSky doesn't care, but Rocket Lab does. Maybe they just don't want to associate with ties between certain political agendas or governments, etc. Rocket Lab, at least from what I've seen, tries to stay pretty apolitical and just tries to make sure they don't, they just are delivering things to space, right? It's not to say that they don't have their own agendas, but I'm sure, they just don't want to view themselves as, supporting one side or not supporting another, and they're trying, I'm sure, to potentially just steer clear of something like that, which could rub people the wrong way or rub people the right way, depending on how it's perceived. So,
Okay, fair.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Scotto, for this one. So we move on to the next one. Let me see if you guys can see my... Oh, wait, I have to stop this. And here we go. So the next news is, we're not going to be much on this, is that Blue and Gold, the satellites for the Escapade mission, they have done one of them has done their first trajectory correction maneuver, which I guess means that everything is going good on that front. Okay, we go to the news after this, which is the Air and Space Forces magazine reports that the Space Development Agency says it's on track to issue its next batch of missile warning and tracking satellites contracts this month. That is December. So after the money has been used to pay the military's pay during the government shutdown, the money has been fully allocated back, and the agency is going back to doling out the contracts. So I guess that is good news for Rocket Lab. So what do you guys think? When is the award coming? How big is this award? And what happens to the stock if we get it? And what happens if we don't get it?
I mean, they're going to be huge awards. I was just talking to Jacob Keaton before this, and he brought up an article, or maybe this is actually from the Rocket Lab wiki, but he mentioned that the Tranche 2 tracking layer was $2.5 billion total. That was awarded to L3 Harris, Lockheed Martin, Sierra Space. Those contracts were $920 million, $890 million, and $740 million, respectively. And that we're basically expecting Tranche 3 to be kind of on par with that. So, I mean, anywhere from $700 million to $1 billion is what he figures for the size of these. And each of those was for 18 satellites. I'm not sure the number of satellites for tracking 3, but I think it's a slight bit larger, if I'm not mistaken. But it's
just one question, because when we spoke about this before, wasn't it that it's 900 or 700 to 900 million for 48 satellites? That is, or what was it? That was expected to be like divided into 3 companies, and then Rocket Lab's share is about like 200 to 250 million.
I couldn't tell you. I'm not too certain on those numbers, but
yeah. I'm pretty sure it was 18 satellites each for 3 providers, and if you went back to Tranche 2 for tracking layer, one of the 3 providers received like around 700 million. So my assumption would be for Tranche 3, you're looking at least that.
Per company, not like
per
total.
Company. Yeah. So the total is like 2
awesome.
point something billion, I believe, for tracking layer.
I totally misunderstood that. I somehow thought that it was 750 million, like divided between 3 companies.
No, maybe that was one.
Maybe I should have bought some more Rocket Lab on this dip.
Yeah. Well, that was actually part of the reason I bought some Rocket Lab calls earlier in this week. I was kind of like, okay, the macro markets have started to cool off, like calm down rather. It seems like we're back to level, and this award is still ahead of us theoretically. So it seemed like a decent time to dip my toe back in, and paid off so far. Yeah.
I consolidated hard. All of since we hit all-time highs, I had started to explore other companies that I could maybe start dabbling in. And on this dip, I consolidated everything again. I am 99% Rocket Lab.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's cool to hear. Yeah, I think along with this as well, like I know that the SDA piece is important for Tranche 3. But we still need to figure out who's launching the Tranche 2 transport layer as well. And not even just the transport layer, but like all of Tranche 2, I feel like is still up in the air, a good bit of it. And I probably need to do a little bit more research. But it seems like each of the 18 satellites can likely be launched for one. So, I mean, maybe it's not as big of a, like if you're just doing one launch, but for all of the transport layer, you need at least 3 launches. And so if you start talking in the other parts of the contract for Tranche 2 as well, it could be billions of dollars worth of launch contracts going out specifically to get them to orbit as well. So curious to see when those get announced, because I haven't really seen much on that.
I can say that those are a part of the NSSL program. So when you remember Neutron getting onboarded to that, And people wonder, well, what is actually in that program? It's a lot of these big, expensive government satellites, including the SDA ones. So when the task order gets released, Neutron could potentially go for it, although it will be going up against Falcon 9 and other rockets as well.
All right, cool. So now we go to the next topic, and that is some insider sales. And again, Scotto flagged that he had something prepped on this one. So
I'll steal the screen again if you don't mind, because there was a whole bunch really, and I think there's some important context to outline here. So essentially, it's broken into like 4 blocks. The first one was Director John Olson. This was just a straight up sale. The second block, there was 4 forums in total. So we have Arjun Kampani, Frank Klein, Adam Spice, and Peter Beck. Now, these were all sell to cover, so basically selling shares to pay taxes. With the exception of Peter's, he also had an RSU involved in there as well, the 132,000 shares. You can see it from bullet point number 1. The next block, there were 2. So Arjun Kampani and Frank Klein again. These were automatic sales. So it's something that was adopted by the reporting person. It was like a plan that was outlined December 2024. Obviously, Frank Klein is newer than that, but it's like a automatic plan. And then finally, we had just a regular sale from Marlene St. Hill, director, for I think it's 4% of her total shares. So putting this all together, bring that in a little closer. It's just a little chart here, or a little table. So this is block 1, block 2, block 3, and block 4. And this is the respective share change or share count change. And of these shares, the actual selling was 32% of the total value of the shares being sold, if that makes sense. So a lot of people will just see the Form 4s and just see like just the sell tag attached to the executive's name and just think that everything is over. But in reality, 62% of these were to cover taxes, and 6.5% were just automatic sales. So the remaining 32% being like actual selling, and that was by 2 of the directors. So sure, like selling never looks great, but when you kind of layer in that additional context, it's just kind of unexpected, especially around Christmas time. So some much needed context there. Hopefully that sheds some light.
Cool.
I think that lens is always appropriate, because I think so many people immediately jump to conclusions like insiders are selling, and it's like, well, especially if they happen on like the 15th of the month, like in pretty routine fashion. It seems like it's like, oh well, magically they sold 3 months ago, and 3 months before that, and 3 months before that. It's like, come on,
Yeah, and actually, there's a chart here, and you can see it's perfectly. It's like heading in the exact direction. You know what I mean? So it's when you kind of zoom out and look at it this way, you're like, oh yeah, this isn't a clear like drop off. It's not very choppy. It's just, par for the course. So
cool. Thank you. Okay, so the next bit of news, which actually happened last week, and I really wanted to speak about it then, and that is a Ars Technica article it was an interview with Sir Peter Beck, but it's done as not a recording, but as a newspaper article. And here...
I want to swap back there.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for the catch. Here we go. Here's the article. So this is the line that really caught my attention. So Eric Berger says, okay, Pete, it's November 18. How confident should you be in a Neutron launch next year? Is it a 50-50? And Sir Peter Beck, hopefully better than 50-50. That would be a definite fail. We're taking time to get it right. I always caveat everything, Eric, that it's a rocket program, and we got some big tests in front of us. But to date, if you look at the program, it's been super smooth. Like, we haven't exploded tanks, we haven't exploded engines, we haven't had any major failure, especially when we're pushing some new boundaries and some new technology. So I think it's going really, really smoothly. As long as it continues to go smoothly, then I think we're in good shape. Now, what really stuck in my eye in this is that I would have expected that Sir Peter Beck answers like, for sure, 110% we're launching in 2026. there's no way that it goes into 2027. And he didn't answer that way. And I see in Twitter that a lot of people, when they listen to the Q3 earnings call, they understood that Rocket Lab is planning to launch Neutron in Q1. But it's not what actually they said in the earnings call. And I want to set the record straight that Rocket Lab, what they committed to is we're going to start seeing Neutron on the pad. And technically, if you see the Hungry Hippo fairing or any part of the rocket at Wallops, where I'm sure it's going to show up in this community, you can tick that box off. So they absolutely did not commit to a launch in Q1. But yeah, what like, is it just me who sees the same thing, or do you guys also think that this is, I don't want to say it's like a red flag, but I kind of feel like Neutron will come when it comes, and I'm patient, but I was just a bit surprised on this answer.
Yeah, if you don't mind me hopping in here, when I first read it, I thought it was pretty jarring as well, but I was talking to a few people and like Kiwis and stuff like that, and then I guess they kind of said, well, hopefully better than 50-50. It's a little bit more confident maybe than you think. It's just like kind of being humble and nice about it and stuff. So I think this is just kind of how he talks, and it's his style. Elon would have been saying for the past 3 years, absolutely, we're going to launch by year end 100% every year, and then it would have been delayed. Whereas Peter's always like, yeah, it should launch. We expect it to or whatever, but not. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of his style.
Yeah, I'll jump in, give my thoughts on that. First and foremost, thanks to Hot Dog for the 5 gifted subs. That's much appreciated, brother. You don't ever have to do that, but I do appreciate it. I agree. I mean, you don't have the audio file to fall back on, right? And so if you did, he could have been like, okay, Pete, 50-50 or what? He'd be like, well, hopefully it's better than 50-50, right?
Yeah,
and like jesting back, right? Or he could be like, well, hopefully it's better than 50-50. You don't have that sort of context. It's all written in black and white, and so you can't see the gray area, which I think is it. But to me, I think I trust in what they're doing. They're doing as best as they can, and like they stated, like I don't think that they are trying to really mislead anybody, and so I think they don't want to be 100% definitive. So I get it. It's still a rocket program at the end of the day. Like everyone was kind of saying the same thing for this month, right? When we thought that they was going to potentially be on the pad and potentially be launching this month. So I'm just cautiously optimistic that they're going as fast as they can. And to be fair, it's still magnitudes cheaper than any other rocket that has been in comparison put on a pad. And they're doing a phenomenal job, I think, so far with all the testing that they have done. And you have to think that it's not just Rocket Lab. There's regulatory. There's a lot of other things as well that they need to kind of cross. And who knows what kind of hoops they're being thrown through from that perspective as well. And I'm cautiously optimistic that, as Peter has said in the past, unless they're 92% sure it's going to go off successfully, like they don't want to even try it. So that's just me.
Yeah, I think there's lots of Kiwis in the comments here mentioning that, it could be just a New Zealand thing, a way that they put things. I think, not having the actual audio in the context, I kind of interpreted it as a what you first did, Matt, there with like hopefully better than 50-50, like a jovial way. But, I think this poor man, we just need to let him cook. He keeps saying the same thing. It's coming, but I'm not going to be rushed. I need to make sure that this is absolutely right. And that's the approach that I want at the end of the day. Do I want to see Neutron launch next year? Absolutely. Neutron on the pad in Q1 is also what I understood, on the pad, but maybe not launching just yet. But as long as it launches and launches right, that's my ultimate goal.
Yep. Well put.
So just theoretically, like, if Neutron would launch in 2027 and not in 2026, like, does that change anything in your thesis, or like, because I just want to say there was an interview with Motley Fool this week, I think, or last week, where Sir Peter Beck made it very clear that he wants to make sure that the culture of Rocket Lab stays intact, because there has only been 2 space companies that have ever achieved cadence with rocket, and that's SpaceX and Rocket Lab. And the only thing that he can think that caused it, because it wasn't the financing, it wasn't, you know, which country the people come from, it was actually the culture within Rocket Lab and the magic of Rocket Lab. And he says that part of that is, as we said it before, that if they're not 92% sure that it's going to succeed, they're not going to launch it. Like there's no point. So my personal viewpoint is that I want him to keep the magic of Rocket Lab and let him cook. And if he feels it takes until 2027, I'm completely fine with it. But I just want to read like the pulse in the room, like for you guys, if it would come up during the year that the launch does go into 2027, like how much does it affect you guys?
It'd be a downer. I'm not gonna lie. It'd be a downer.
I would say, sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, obviously it wouldn't be great, but I think a lot hinges on the next, few weeks, really. Like if it was like we had this new SDA contract under our belt, and then we got a delay, it'd just kind of be like, okay, whatever. But I think if there's no large contract in the next 3 to 6 months and a Neutron push out, I think that'll be kind of not like ruinous to the thesis, but definitely not great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I always look at this very long-term focused, and so I've always just thought about Neutron as being a step in the right direction, but not the end goal of the company. And to me, the thing that I'm most concerned about now is Neutron to me is inevitable. And so I just like, when it gets there, it gets there. So it is what it is, in my opinion. I'm more so concerned about truly trying to understand from a market cap perspective in terms of my investment going forward, where does Neutron get us to in terms of unlocking the future revenue potential for the company, not from the launches perspective, but from the constellation ability that is unlocked by Neutron. And so to me, it's like that is the only thing that's holding me between truly understanding what the next value lever for Rocket Lab is, because Neutron alone would maybe get us to a 30 to 40, $50 billion market cap, and then you're kind of done. To me, the constellation and understanding what value that can unlock and knowing more about the constellation, Flatellite, etc., is really where I think you could get into, hey, is this $100 billion plus company? And understanding that piece. So to me, I think that's more where I'm at. And I think for anybody that's sitting here wondering, like, it's a personal question, not what does Matt think? It's, does it matter to you if Neutron launches in 26? To me, I'm already in thinking 2030 plus, like what is and when is Flatellite, and what is the potential associated with that? And Neutron is a stepping stone to get us to that place. And so it's really up to the eye of the beholder as to how and when Neutron being launched really matters to you.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with that. I think when we first started to talk Neutron, I saw the majority of the value in the space systems. And, as some of you have mentioned already, seeing some of those contract announcements come on relatively soon here, hopefully, would definitely, soften the blow of any further delays with Neutron. But yeah, the bigger question is what does open up when Neutron finally comes online. We've heard them talk about the constellation for some time, about not knowing yet what that is. I saw Dave's video recently on data centers, and that kind of seems to be like the buzzword lately, right? But that is something that we're waiting to be unlocked once Neutron launches. So, it's going to take as long as it takes. I did see a very fitting Lord of the Rings quote here in the chat. A wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. And I think that's exactly right for Neutron, where it's going to show up when it's going to show up. But I have no doubt that every effort's being made to get it to the launch pad and get to launch, within this year.
Yeah, I think people forget to realize, like, and I say this a lot, and like Rocket Lab is the Thanos of space right now. They have acquired all these beautiful companies that are literally legacy, that are been on the James Webb, on Perseverance for Mars. Like, think about how much talent that has been brought in-house and how much use that is. And even in the Motley Fool interview, I don't know if you're going to get to it, Vince, you probably are, but they basically said, like, we are the #1 space-rated solar panel provider in the world. So when you think about the next tranche of everyone talking about data centers, you have Jensen, you have Sundar Pichai, you have all these people, Elon Musk even talking about data centers in space, which I originally thought was like kind of a little bit crazy. But now that I'm thinking about it, and now that I've had time to digest it, like, who else is going to make the solar panels? Like, yes, there's probably other people out there making great solar panels, but Rocket Lab has a lot of capacity to continue to grow that business, and that's going to have its own wavelengths as well. So yes, this is a potential step back. We thought it was going to be launched in December 24, then mid 25, then end of 25. Now we're in the first quarter of 26, but there's other things going on in the company, and this being moved from 26 to even 27. I mean, we're not really seeing meaningful revenue contribution from Neutron until the early 2030s anyway. So it's like,
sorry if you don't mind me hopping on there, Matt. I guess one thing I would say is with the pushback on this, we've heard the 135 schedule many times, and I would just build out my model based on what they're telling us. So previously I had 3 revenue generating launches for Neutron next year, which would have been $150 million, which is still significant, which obviously is no longer going to be the case now. But long term, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is like, let's just I just throw it out there, right? You're a $23 billion market cap today. And to me, it's like, well, where do you think you terminally end up? At 100 billion or 200 billion? Put your number in and say, okay, well, instead of all the launches that get us there, that's going to show up in, say, 2034 versus 2035. Are you really going to sell the company because you get to 100 billion or 150 or 200 billion? Choose your number in 2034 versus 2035. And what's your compound annual growth rate, which is never going to be linear, right? It's going to show up in waves, as we know. So, put your number in and put your time in and back calculate and see, like, just because everything is delayed by a year from 2030 to 2035. I'm not saying you're wrong, Dave, by the way. I agree with you wholly. I think it's up to the person that's listening to say, I think now this is pushing everything to 2035, and it's going to be 150 billion in 2035 versus 2034. That is now I'm just going to throw a number out there. I haven't done the math, but a 10% compound annual growth rate. That's less for me than I was expecting. I'm going to go put my money elsewhere. That's up to them. But for me, I think it's still wildly profitable between now and 2035. So I'll keep my money where my mouth is.
All right. Awesome, everyone. So we continue. We are coming to the end of the Rocket Lab news. So this chart has been published last week, which shows the global rocket launches ranked in 2025 so far. And this little guy on the left, right, you can see is the second one, which is after the Falcon 9. And it beat out, I believe that's a Chinese flag here. Yeah. So Rocket Lab is the second most frequently launched rocket on the planet currently. So that is amazing. Then
it is missing haste, by the way, as well.
Okay, cool.
They just had 15 launches there. They didn't include the haste, but even so.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so Rocket Lab got an award. That's the AWS Company of the Year award at the Deloitte Top 200 Awards. What a complicated name. And I don't want to play the speech right now because we're very low on time, but it's Sir Peter Beck is really funny. He said he didn't prepare a speech and he thought that somebody else was going to get the award. So he started drinking wine And then when he got the award, he said he quickly regretted both those decisions. And yet he did a really good speech. And he said 2026 is going to be an amazing year for Rocket Lab. So let's take him at his word. Cool. Now, the last Rocket Lab news that I want to sort of end on, which is not sort of a Rocket Lab news, but kind of is, you will see. So there is talk now that SpaceX is raising money at an 800 billion mind-blowing freaking valuation, which is completely and utterly nuts. I wish that they were a public company so we could analyze the numbers, because that number just feels nuts, but maybe it's completely justified by the numbers that they have. But obviously, if Rocket Lab is at 20 billion and SpaceX is 800 billion, there is still an insane growth ahead for Rocket Lab just to catch up to where SpaceX is today and not where it's going to be in like 10, 15 years. So do you guys think that when, and SpaceX says to investors that they are planning an IPO in late 2026. So my question is, do you guys think that this helps with Rocket Lab valuations? So when space investors look at companies and they're like, oh my God, okay, SpaceX is 800 billion, Rocket Lab is only 20 billion. Let's close that gap. So what do you guys think?
I'm sure it doesn't hurt. And even myself just doing like the quick math, because it seems like a overstretched valuation, but it's like, 800 divided by 15.5 is a price to sales of 52. And of course, that's just top line, but I think that's what a lot of investors will simply do. Just look at Rocket Lab and just say, oh, Rocket Lab's price to sales of, I think they're like 40, 45. So they'll deem that as undervalued. I'm sure it's not going to hurt Rocket Lab's valuation, to say the least. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Jacob hit it, and I think it was Jacob. Yeah, hit it right on the head. It's not necessarily like they're going to Google or trying to raise another 10 billion or anything like that. It's an internal stock sale that happens semi-annually, and based off of the conversation, I don't know if it was CNBC or Fox Business, but spokesperson for the company or someone that's closer to the matter than I am said basically it's more closer to 600 billion, I think, is where they're kind of starting to sell internal shares. So it's for, say, employees or anything like that would potentially want to use it to monetize some of their equity to be able to pay for things, or internal investors that want to potentially sell out a little bit. So it's not like they're raising money. And I think the big thing was surprising that in the past they had talked about just Starlink going public, but SpaceX kind of still remaining as a large shareholder of Starlink, and now the whole company looks like that they are potentially good at IPO, which I thought was pretty interesting. But this goes back to talking about what I think the bigger picture is with Rocket Lab is like, they're not just a Falcon 9 company, right? They're a Starlink company, and the majority of the value of the company comes from Starlink. And so I hope that people recognize and are listening to what Peter Beck says. We really like what SpaceX has done with their business model. We want to replicate into something like that. Now, I'm not saying that Rocket Lab is going to be replicating a $600 billion to $800 billion market cap or anything like that in the near term. But what I am showing or thinking is that they really like the constellation model, and they think that there's a lot of value in generating anywhere between $1 million to potentially $5 million per satellite per annum in space and revenue. And that's something comparable to what's happening with SpaceX. And I think that's going to lead to potentially over $100 billion in market cap. And that's where the real value of the company lies.
I was wondering if I could share my screen, Vince. I just wanted to show a couple things. I know this episode's already running late, so I don't know how much time we have, but
yeah, I don't know.
I'm all afternoon personally.
Yeah.
So
well,
it's pretty late here, but I think we can try to go maybe 20 minutes more.
yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see how it goes. I just wanted to point out a couple things. There's a lot of chatter in the comments and people raising things that seem interesting and pertinent. So some people seem to think that Elon debunked the 800 billion valuation. I think what his post is debunking here is the fact that they're raising money at this valuation, not the valuation itself. So they're not raising money. They're allowing employees to sell in a liquidity event, but I do believe the 800 billion is an accurate number. And it'll be really interesting to see if they do in fact IPO, because a lot of people think that's the end of the Mars goal, that public shareholders won't kind of stand for a, funneling of money into the Mars colony. So that was interesting. You mind if I share a couple other things quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Number one, I just wanted to share these pictures because I used it in my thumbnail. And Neutron is on the move. So the top section at least has been seen. I think Ms. Iglesias was saying that this is a prototype one. I don't know. I guess it's possible a prototype flies, but I don't know where else. Like, I guess they could be shipping to some other testing facility. I don't know where else it would go.
No, sorry, I'm just trying to find it in the chat, Dave. There was a gentleman from New Zealand. He mentioned, I wish I could find it, but it's going to a port north where there's no other Rocket Lab facilities there. And the idea or the assumption there is that it's going to that port because it's going to head out to the US as its next stop.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it. I still can't find it. Sorry.
That makes the most sense to me, given that it's on the move like that. So that was interesting.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be sorry, I'll let you finish. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, going back to the prototype piece, I mean, I think that this was just used so they can continue to do testing 24 hours a day. And so what they're able to test in, say, the Maryland facility or on the East Coast or even in Long Beach, they're able to then replicate and do, because, you have a global operations, you have the opportunity to potentially spend, let's say, I don't know, 25 million to make a prototype and be able to test 24 hours a day. You're going to be able to keep working 24 hours a day, which has a lot of efficiencies. And you already have very competent engineers and technicians over in New Zealand. Why not use them?
I did find the name. I'm going to butcher it, but Wangaray.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure about the pronunciation there, but somebody's asking if it's going to Northport or Wangaray, and it's the latter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it could be headed to Wallops.
Francisco is saying that they're moving it because there's too many people from our community spying on it.
Spying on them?
They don't want us to see what they're doing.
Okay. And then just to move this on, I did want to share a quick clip. I don't know if the audio is going to work, but if you guys are okay with this, is from the confirmation hearing for Jared Isaacman.
Cool.
Yeah. It's not working.
No audio.
You have to unshare it and reshare it, and then it probably will work. Don't ask me why.
Okay. Let's just do this. Do you have to check also share system audio? I feel like that's new.
Yeah, not system, maybe just the tab audio.
Yeah, try one more time. Here.
We'll try. No. Okay,
third time's the charm. If this doesn't work, I'll give up.
What I have learned on StreamYard is you have to think that it's not working, and then it will work. If you say it's probably going to work, it's not going to work.
Well, it's definitely not going to work this time.
Exactly.
Like your friend
there we go.
Musk, I would say some of the commercial actors, they depend on after solar activity has repeatedly disrupted their constellations as well. Now, NASA, Earth science assets also ensure GPS integrity, track environmental changes, everything you just described. U.S. military readiness, critically important. National security, the importance of the science directorate.
Sorry, we're a few
seconds
seconds
let me ask
behind.
you directly, yes or no? Will you execute the funds appropriated by Congress for NASA's critical science mission passed over the summer? There are pieces of it, particularly in NASA's section, that hold promise, and I appreciate the inclusion of them. For example, the NASA section funds a Mars telecommunications orbiter, specifically one that was proposed independently when NASA solicited its commercial industry for Mars sample return mission architects from space. I see you nodding. You're very familiar with this, I imagine.
Reasonably familiar, Senator.
The orbiter would not only support future exploration missions, but most importantly, it would help support the critical comms relay needed for existing and future science missions like the Mars sample return. Now, New Mexico is home to companies like Rocket Lab, who produce the world's highest efficiency space-grade solar and powered critical NASA missions and would power the MTO, for example. So yes or no, do you commit to following through on the letter of the law and ensuring a rapid acquisition strategy for the MTO to be able to deliver it by the law's 2028 due date?
Senator, my commitment to you and all the other members is always to follow the law. As a space enthusiast, I am super excited about any activities that open up further science and discovery on Mars.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So what I found interesting about that is the law basically says it should go to Rocket Lab because the wording of the MTO in that budget was that it has to be someone who previously had one of the study contracts who proposed a separate MTO, which was only Rocket Lab. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting.
That's cool. I didn't hear that. Yeah, I didn't hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think to be mentioned by name, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, it shows they're having an effect, I guess, with their lobbying efforts and stuff like that, which I think you have to do at Washington.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for
awesome.
me sharing my screen.
Thank you. So I believe Scotto mentioned something that you have something about Mynaric. That's my absolute last Rocket Lab news. And then there's some space news for the week.
Oh, man.
But
I'll just grab the screen from you one last time.
Here we go.
It is quick too. So do I have the dates here? On November 25th on LinkedIn, Mynaric posted an update that they are proud to announce the milestone of delivering more than 250 Condor Mark III optical terminals to customers. So again, that's November 25th, 2025. If we go back to June 5th, there was a mention that they have delivered around 100 Condor Mark III terminals to the customers. So we're looking at a 5-month period. Finally, we'll scroll back all the way to May of 2024. I'm not sure if you guys can see at the bottom, but this is basically the agreement between Rocket Lab and Mynaric. Rocket Lab was awarded the 18 vehicle program in January of 2024. So this is the SDA that they won, and then Mynaric is the partner with that. The order of Condor Mark III terminals is valued at approximately $15 million worth of deliveries, beginning in 2025 and continuing into 2026. So for each of these 18 craft, there will be 4 terminals. So that puts this total contract at 72 terminals. So 15 million divided by 72 terminals, that puts these at 208,000 apiece. So we're just going to round down, making it even 200,000. Multiply that by the 100 terminals that were between November and June. We're looking at $20 million over a 5-month period, or roughly $45 to $50 million in revenue on an annual basis for a company that is being purchased for $70 million with the additional $75 million in bonuses through 2026 and 2027, assuming production targets are met. So Rocket Lab hasn't been too forthcoming quite yet about how Mynaric is doing in terms of revenue, but there's a good indicator, and that should be closing hopefully any day, like hopefully by the end of this month as well. So it's just a little piece that I wanted to share with you guys. It's definitely a step in the right direction. That $45-50 million for a $75 million company, that's a move right out of Rocket Lab's book.
Thank you. That was also pretty interesting. Cool. So now I looked at the news that I have queued up here. Let me just take back the screen. And we are always so good on touching ahead of these subjects. So this was already kind of mentioned. So the news came out that Sam Altman has explored the deal to build a competitor to SpaceX. I think this is clickbait. It was basically that he reached out to Stoke Space in the summer and discussed for OpenAI to be an investor or taking over the company. I highly doubt that they discussed 100% taking over Stoke Space. So just being a major investor, and the angle was basically for AI data centers in space. Maybe we can take all the news at once because we are so tight on time, and then we can just comment on the one that we feel like. So the next one is Jarek Eisenman's nomination, which also came up. Shared the tweet showing all the support that he's getting in letters, and we know that the support behind him is bipartisan, and hopefully there's rumors that maybe already as soon as next week his nomination goes through and NASA has a new director. And the last news that I had is that there was an accident in Russia when they launched the last Soyuz report. So it looks like the bottom part of this rocket stand where they can access the rocket was so basically the service platform was not fastened before the launch, and then the rocket flame pushed it down into the trenches, and that renders this site basically useless. And this was the only site that Russia currently has that is servicing the International Space Station, and that means that basically it's only SpaceX right now that can service the space station. For the crew, they have the Dragon spacecraft. For cargo, they have I'm pretty sure I'm not saying it right, the Cygnus capsule or the Dragon capsule, but the Cygnus also launches on the Falcon 9 to keep up the orbit of the space station and reboost it. It has to be done via the Dragon and the Cygnus. And the only possible rescue is Dragon. So yeah, what do you guys think about this space news? And what do you guys anticipate for this next coming week for Rocket Lab?
Man, so much there. I think Sam's serious about rockets and space data centers. He's talked about it a bunch. He's a billionaire now, and we all know billionaires have this innate need to have a rocket.
I buy the seriousness about the space data centers. This I buy, but to buy a rocket company to fully take it over and that he would manage the rocket program, I think is insane.
It's insane, but I believe he wants to do it, but I don't think it will happen with Stoke.
Well, he's not going there with SpaceX, I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Why not go there with Rocket Lab?
Possibly.
As long as he doesn't buy the whole company and take them private.
Yeah, I don't see Sir Peter Beck handing over the company to anyone.
No. I meant to buy the services of Rocket Lab and use them. Yeah.
100%.
I don't see why you need to buy a space company to build space data centers. I mean, space companies is basically like, if you don't know what you're doing, it's a black hole of money, as shown by Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson and many other rocket companies. And I thought on this show we talked about that the next billionaire who buys a rocket company is Matt Money, who's here with us.
Oh yeah, I can't speculate on that, but what I can say is like I think it's likely that they were just saying we need more competitors, we need more people to potentially put these in space, and so Stoke I believe is going to be successful, and so giving them any sort of capital to get some sort of equity position isn't necessarily, I don't think, Altman trying to, or OpenAI trying to take over the entirety, but rather give optionality and more so guarantee the fruitfulness to get the keys to space, right? I mean, Neutron will help, Stoke would help, not BlackSky, Firefly, hopefully, with their medium launch vehicle, which I haven't seen much about, but apparently will potentially be working on over the next couple of years. So I think that it's more along the lines of just ensuring that there's optionality other than SpaceX to potentially put things into space.
Okay, cool. I think if nobody else has anything to say, this was a pretty long episode. I think it was one of the best episodes ever. Thank you, Miss Iglesias, for coming on, and we had anyways a full house.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I feel like I took up too much time, or a lot of your time.
It was awesome.
Worth it for sure. And I'll be remiss to say I did get some messages ahead of the weekly asking about talking about Isaacman's Project Athena release that was kind of circling around. And that I think for people that aren't really familiar with Project Athena, I'm fairly certain it's about being able to get small launch to space. And I know a couple months back we had talked about, is there a potential Electron variant with respect to getting up to something closer to 500 kg? And that falls in line a lot with what Project Athena is looking at. And so I anticipate that more to come on that space. I think Rocket Lab was one of 7 folks to get that sort of contract, or at least some funding grants to potentially look at it. And so I'm curious to see what they end up doing with the potential Electron, or is it going to be specifically focusing around the satellite piece of it? Because Athena, I think, has twofold. It's one, a small launch 500 kilogram vehicle, and then second is certain types of payload testing. So, yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah, I think that Athena document, as I'm looking at it, mentioned bulk buys, bulk buys of launches and buses and components. So I think it's a little bit of everything.
Cool. Well, can't wait to see what Jarek Eisenman is going to do as the head of NASA director. He definitely seems to be a fan of the MTO and the Mars sample return. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. All right, people. Thank you everyone for being here. I really believe this was one of the best episodes we have done on Rocket Lab Weekly. I love how we do all this community research, and like you guys come with your own presentations, and Miss Iglesias with your whole trip, and again making sure that we're not just buying some AI generated images like the Nikola truck. Yeah. So cool.
I was gonna say it probably was better because Miss Iglesias was here. We got some diversity on the panel, and some hands-on experience as well.
Too kind.
Awesome, guys. So have a nice week. Happy second Advent to everyone who celebrates, and may your sky stay blue and stocks stay green. And see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Good seeing you all. Good to grab some of the meat. Cheers.
Take care. Thanks for having me.